Cheers and salutations. Welcome, one and all, to Americans Learn. My name is Kit. And once again, we thank you for joining our channel. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe, and hit that ring bell notification. That way, all of you are made aware when we upload new content upon our YouTube channel. And today, we continue on with our adventures with Sabaton history. Again, shout out to all you lovely people. As always, we have ourselves, you guys and gals, to thank for introducing us to Sabaton history. But as always, now, going forward, when we check out the history video, we also will play the music as well, because, let's face it, it's important to get our learn on, but have some fun as well. So, sit back, relax, grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage, and let's check out Counterstrike, the Six-Day War, Sabaton history, number 14. I'm staying in order, by the way, and we will also be listening to the song Counterstrike as well. So, let's get our learn on. Let's get ready to have some fun and find out what exactly is going on to Counterstrike, the Six-Day War, Sabaton history. So, since I'm in charge of the ones and twos, let's get ready to play this video in a 3, a 2, a 1. Oops, and gotta fix that. And there we go. It's gone.
This is Sabaton history. Defeating multiple enemies in under a week might sound impossible, but 50 years ago it was done in 6 days.
And I was only 14 years old when I went to Israel and was first time told the story behind Counterstrike.
I am well aware that this is a very controversial topic, and whatever I say about it is going to therefore be controversial. My focus today is the military situation, but it is impossible to explain that without at least some context. Although the Arab-Israeli conflict goes way back before Israel declared independence in 1948, since that declaration, the civil war that preceded it, and the first Arab-Israeli war that immediately followed it, religious tensions and border disputes have been the cause of hostilities time and time again. And indeed, those conflicts began the Palestinian refugee crisis that continues to this very day.
Yeah, I think that's important that we do need to address. Obviously, this will be pretty controversial even to watch, but all history has its controversies. All history has its problems, and we all live on the same planet. I think JFK said that. We all breathe the same air. Hopefully someday there will be a better future. I don't know what it looks like, but I do hope that someday we are all able to be at peace. What a sight that would be. But, again, we cannot ignore history. It must be observed, and it must be watched, and it must be talked about so that we don't make the same mistakes over and over again. Which is something us humans are experts at doing, making the same mistakes over and over again. You'd think we'd learn by now.
By 1967, tension was seriously building once again. Under Egyptian President Gamal Abdel Nasser's leadership, a pact with Jordan and Iraq was made to politically encircle Israel, and the various Arab military forces were bolstered with weapons and tanks from the Soviet Union. Nasser himself boasted that the destruction of Israel was the aim of his administration, and it was just a matter of time until the Arabs would reclaim the land. Also, he announced that the Straits of Tiran would be closed to Israeli shipping, and mobilized the Egyptian army along the Israeli border. Israel had made clear, though, that they considered the closure of the straits to their shipping a casus belli. On June 5th, shortly after 7 a.m., 200 French-made, but Israeli-operated, Magister, Mystère, Mirage, and Ouragan aircraft crossed the border and flew deep into Egyptian territory. Flying low to escape radar detection, they were the first step in a plan months in the making. Israeli spies had identified Egyptian military airports and knew exactly when the pilots were having breakfast. And Egyptian High Command had been careless in its contempt for Israel and its military. There were no concrete hangars, and their Soviet Union-manufactured MiGs, Tupolevs, and Ilyushins were all lined up along the runways as the Israeli planes banked for an attack run.
Okay, that is pretty stupid. Never, ever, ever underestimate your opponent. Be it in politics, business, warfare, anywhere. Never underestimate your opponent. Always treat them as though they can destroy you, even if they are a clown. You must never, ever let your guard down. That is something I hope all of you will learn, no matter what you do, okay? I wish you guys and gals, nothing but success, but seriously, even if you know the person you're facing is weak, or maybe foolish, or overconfident, or prideful, always keep your head on a swivel. Always be ready, because you never know. Never underestimate anyone. Keep your guard up. Even if you know the outcome is an absolute victory, you go into battle preparing for your maybe possible defeat, maybe. But you do everything you can to stand up and fight back. Never let your guard down. Never underestimate anyone. History has also shown that to humans and nations past and leaders of past. What happens when you underestimate somebody? Learn from that lesson.
The air sirens rang out just as the bombs fell. In minutes, 286 fighters were destroyed, and special runway buster bombs left craters along the runways. The Egyptian Air Force had basically ceased to exist, and the first of 6 days of war had begun. Camouflaged by the night, Israeli troops had moved to the Egyptian border in 3 columns, planning to strike towards Suez and the Sinai. Egypt thought itself prepared, and the desert passes were reinforced by trenches, pillboxes, barbed wire, and minefields. But the Israelis came by surprise. A mailed fist of tanks and armor would concentrate the attack on the main defensive line, while paratroopers and commandos targeted weak points via helicopters. Chaos swept through the Egyptian headquarters in Cairo. Despite the reports of the destruction of the Egyptian Air Force, though, Nasser welcomed the opening of hostilities. Immediately, he cabled Damascus, Amman, and Baghdad to try and get them to join the war. And he lied to them and told them that Israel had lost hundreds of planes and that the Egyptian counterattack was already underway. In reality, Israeli Centurion and Patton tanks, which outclassed the Egyptian T-34s and Stalins, were advancing in a pincer movement towards the entrenched Egyptians at Katef. Believing Nasser's lies, the Jordanian army went on the offensive.
Oh my
The targets
God.
were the Israeli positions at West Jerusalem and beyond. American-made long-range guns shelled the suburbs of Tel Aviv as Jordanian tanks took off, and even Iraqi armor and fighter jets made ready. The new city of Jerusalem was soon a battlefield. 5,000 Jordanian and around 1,000 Palestinian soldiers advanced on the Israeli positions with machine guns, Bren guns, and heavy mortars, and street-by-street fighting began. Everywhere around the ancient city, the Jordanians were on the move, trying to take vital Israeli positions on Mount Scopus. Loudspeakers atop the Dome of the Rock Mosque spurred the Arabs on to unite and take back the land in a holy war. Immediately after refueling and rearming, the IAF, Israeli Air Force, took off towards Jordan, shooting down the Jordanian Hawker Hunter planes and destroying their bases. Jordanian Patton tanks on their way to the battle were caught in the open and likewise destroyed. Then came news from the north. Encouraged by false reports that the victorious Jordanians were already on their way to Tel Aviv, the Syrian artillery opened up from the Golan Heights.
Hey, would it kill anyone to tell the truth? I mean, obviously, here's one thing. Here's one thing. Sometimes lies cause so many problems, okay? So here's the situation. Always know this, that when a lie is spread, it eventually causes bigger problems. And I think right now, this lie of, oh yeah, we're doing great, is going to be blowing up in a lot of people's faces. Literally, it's going to be blowing up in a lot of people's faces. Oh yeah, everything's peachy. What happened to the army? They're still there.
Israel could hardly want to fight at 3 fronts at once, so they did not respond. Toward the afternoon, Syrian commanders grew bold, and Syrian T-34 tanks came down the hills, shelling villages and civilians. The situation was dire, but the attack was disorganized, and the Israelis fought it off, even dropping napalm on Syrian positions. The Israelis launched an attack in the late afternoon to encircle Jerusalem. Just to be clear, at the time it was not part of Israel. And after vicious hand-to-hand combat, linked up with their enclave on Mount Scopus. At the end of the first day, Israel was advancing in Egypt and gaining momentum on the West Bank against Jordan, while the north was under constant Syrian shell fire but still holding. Winning or losing this war, though, was decided in the respective headquarters. Lying to each other about the situation had given the coalition's high commands a false impression of the war, and although they had strong and numerically superior forces, they were losing their nerve in contrast to the Israelis. Throughout the night, the fighting for Jerusalem continued, and the Israeli forces made good progress on the West Bank, surrounding the holy city in the progress. As the Israelis advanced towards Ramallah, thousands of Palestinian refugees flooded towards Jordan. King Hussein now feared for his monarchy. By the second day in the Sinai Desert, the burning wrecks of hundreds of tanks and jeeps.
Holy. Oh my God, and the world's most one-sided fist fights. Jesus Christ, that's a lot of burnt vehicles. You know, I don't envy the person that has to clean that up. Yeah, that's a big old mess to clean up. How? I mean, again, everything's doing great. How's the convoy doing? Oh, it's doing. Oh, yeah.
Were strewn about as the Egyptian army was pushed back. They fought well for their positions, but were overwhelmed by the rapidity of the Israeli attack. Gaza was cut off, and Egyptian high command ordered a full retreat from their fortified positions. This was a colossal mistake, as the more mobile Israelis could now tear into the fleeing troops, especially from the air. Nasser's army disintegrated. Promises of help and unity between the Arab forces never really materialized. Instead, leaders resorted to what would be called the big lie. It was not just Israel that was beating them. It could not be. No, it was Anglo-American forces that were helping the Jews. The West had come to their aid and was bombing coalition cities. This big lie swept through the Arab world from Algeria to Iraq, and American embassies were set on fire. In reality, the Americans and Western Europe did nothing because they feared that the Soviet Union might intervene if they did. The Soviets had a huge interest in the Middle East and especially close ties to Syria. Early the morning of the third day, Israeli Sherman tanks blasted the blocked entrances of the old town of Jerusalem, and the infantry entered from 3 directions. They were fired upon from windows and rooftops, but quickly seized the old Jewish quarters, which had been abandoned for ages. House to house they fought until the Temple Mount was in Israeli hands. This is a place of major religious significance for Muslims, Jews, and Christians alike. The news soon reached Jews all over the world. The goal of a united Jewish Jerusalem seemed finally within their grasp, and the Messianic era would begin. However, the war was not over. Though the Israelis were advancing everywhere and they controlled the skies. On the West Bank, they were pushing towards Jericho, Bethlehem, and Hebron, while the Jordanian army was now on the brink of being destroyed. In Egypt, Israeli paratroopers and commandos infiltrated Sharm el-Sheikh and the Gulf of Suez. But
well, it looks like that gateway is now open now.
Besides a few battles with entrenched tanks and some rearguard actions, the Egyptian army isn't putting up much of a fight anymore. Kind of abandoned by its leaders, especially Nasser, who isn't seen for days.
Hey, Mr. Nasser, where you at? Where you at, buddy? Hello? They're probably looking around in his office. You see him hiding underneath his desk like at the end of Red Alert 2 when Premier Romanoff. I know I'm comparing a video game to a real life situation, but you know, if you played as the Allies in Red Alert 2, you know, the Allied forces are inside the Kremlin and they're looking for Premier Romanoff, and he's hiding under his desk. That's probably what Nasser is doing, hiding under his desk. After all, you're telling all your buddies like, oh yeah, everything's fine. We shot 100 airplanes out of the sky. Nope.
By the fourth day, the war seemed pretty much over. Israel had successfully secured all of historical Palestine and advanced pretty much unopposed through the Jordan Valley and the West Bank. Much of the remains of the Egyptian army were trapped on the Sinai since Israeli tanks blocked the passes. It is estimated that 10,000 soldiers died that day alone in the desert. Talks of crossing Suez were proposed in Israeli headquarters. Then came a twist of fate. The Israeli Air Force attacked the USS Liberty, an American research ship in international waters that was on its way to observe the situation. 34 people on the ship died and 171 were wounded. Bombing an American ship in international waters with napalm, whether an accident or not, was an act of war and a diplomatic nightmare. Yet, in spite of the danger of also provoking the Soviet Union, the Israelis decided to attack to the north to secure the Syrian border. So, on the fifth day, after vicious napalm airstrikes, a frontal assault on the Golan Heights began. It was one of the bloodiest and most costly attacks of the war, and loads of tanks and half-tracks were knocked out by formidable Syrian defenses. But the Israelis eventually broke into the Syrian trenches. Close combat followed, with high casualties on both sides, and the Syrians held their positions. On the sixth day, though, after being constantly bombed from above, the Syrians broke. But the great powers of the world had had enough. The Soviets threatened military intervention should the Israelis advance on Damascus, and the U.S. conveyed strong dismay about being attacked. The war must stop now.
Again, okay, everyone wants the war to stop. Great. Everyone needs to stop dying. Let's stop it.
After 6 days of war, 133 hours of combat, a ceasefire was brokered by the UN in Tel Aviv. The military might of 3 nations had been destroyed, and 3 nations had been defeated and embarrassed. Egypt had lost nearly 80% of its military equipment, Hussein nearly his monarchy. It was time for diplomacy to take center stage and find an agreement for the future, right? Well, we know that hasn't happened still to this day.
No, it's hey, I hate to be that guy, but I don't see that happening. You know? Just it yeah, you ever saw the first Hangover movie? Where, you know, they're looking for their friend, and the guy's on the phone call with the bride, and she's asking, well, can you find my husband? And it's like, yeah, well, that ain't gonna happen. Yeah, it's never gonna happen. It ain't ever gonna happen. So I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
And it is not my place to try and unravel the incredibly complicated and incredibly sensitive situation of the Middle East. The significance of the Six-Day War is immense, though. Israel had shown that it was not only willing and able to defend itself from multiple attackers, but also to go on the offensive and be the attacker. There was a boom in investment in Israel and in tourism, which turned the sluggish Israeli economy around. Jews could now visit some of their holiest sites, which they had not been able to before, though minority Jewish populations in Arab nations faced increased persecution and even expulsion. Politically, there was a peace offer that included the return of much of the captured territory, but even this is controversial, and there are historians that claim Egypt and Syria never even received it. But there was a shift post-war among the Arab nations from simply questioning Israel's legitimacy as a nation to questioning its borders, which is a big change. Though the entire Soviet bloc broke off diplomatic relations with Israel, local resentment against the victors of the war has never faded, and the war greatly aggravated the already extant refugee crisis, which continues to this day with displaced persons in the millions.
Tell us about this trip to Israel. when you were younger?
All right, I was 14 years.
Okay.
And my sister was actually living in Israel at this time.
Older
And,
sister, I imagine.
Yeah, I hadn't seen her for a long time, and I wanted to go see her.
Right?
So my parents kind of blackmailed me as well, I had long hair, but they didn't like it at this time. So they said I had to cut me in order to get there.
Oh, side note here, I've actually met Par's parents, and they're really cool. And something
They are
funny,
cool.
we were sitting at dinner, and his mom was telling me, you know, she thought he was going to work with, like, computers or something. And he
Yeah, I thought he was going to work with computers.
said, no, I'm going to be a rock star. She said, you're not going to be a rock star. And so I said to his mom, I said, so what do you think about that now? And she said to me, I was wrong.
Well, he sure showed me.
Which is really funny. But they were really cool. But I could totally see that, you know, 14 years old stuff.
I went to Israel and we rented a local history guide. The guy was a lot focused actually around more recent history.
Okay.
And he told a lot about the Six-Day War. Many years later, when me and Joachim are sitting and discussing topics, and we have this super aggressive, very fast song, and Joachim is like, what will fit here? And I'm like, that's the Six-Day War.
And it didn't bother you that it was a controversial topic too many and stuff?
It wasn't. I mean, you know it yourself, how things are when you...
When you do history.
Yeah, when you do history.
I mean, you know, we have, of course, as you know, covered plenty of controversial topics. In the war against humanity, World War II, Great War, between two wars, Cuba crisis. I think in everything, there's something that's going to raise some hackles. But
Yeah, look, let's rip the Band-Aid off, okay? Every single conflict in human history is controversial. Many innocent people have passed away. There have been dictators, tyrants, kings, monarchs, individuals who just want absolute power. And of course, every single conflict has helped build up the world that we are in today. Unfortunately, I don't know if and when we will get to a better future where there is peace and understanding and perhaps the advancement of the human species to worlds beyond. But we must make the effort. But in order to do that, we must also face the past and never forget it, or we'll be doomed to repeat it, which is something we keep on doing. Oh well, that's the human. That's the human spirit. Sometimes we just keep on making the same mistakes, but eventually, someday, not today or tomorrow, but someday, we will be better. So, no matter what, let us fight for a better future, not only for tomorrow, but for all tomorrows.
we try to do it, you know, apolitically and not just historically accurate to the events, but to talk about the motivations and things from both sides. And that, I think, then you shouldn't be able to worry about anything after that.
A lot of the controversy was from people who were referring to the part in the lyrics where we are singing Israelis rule the heaven. I mean, obviously, one of the first steps that was happening in the Six-Day War was that the Israeli Air Force shot down the planes of the opposing forces.
Yeah, they had mastery of the skies.
Yes, so they were ruling the heavens.
That makes sense. But have you spent time as a band down in Israel?
Yeah, we've been there a couple of times to perform.
Yeah?
And as we came there the first time, there was a local band that were the support band of us. They were called Desert.
What they called Desert.
Yes.
Okay.
And who also sings about historical things.
You know, people are going to look them up now.
Yeah,
It's a good plug.
And they're gonna find a song where our singer Joachim is singing one of the songs.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so the band Desert, they were taking us out. It was a funny moment when they were like, do you have a music video for this song Counterstrike? And we're like, no, we don't have. And they said, let's film it now. Like, now.
Okay.
And we were in a car.
And do we have this?
So that was the song Counterstrike.
And you've been watching Sabaton History.
As we should.
All right, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the Sabaton History channel, check out Indy's other channels, and support us on Patreon, because that's what makes this happen.
All right, so you know what to do. Be sure to follow them on all their social media platforms. Be sure to support them on Patreon. And more importantly, look, the original content creators put a lot of work and effort into making these videos. So the original link is in the description box below. We do that for all the videos here on Americans Learn. But now, we get to the point that all of you have been waiting for, because let's face it, as far as I'm concerned, so long as I'm in charge, first we get our learn on, then we have fun. So everyone sit back, relax, and let us enjoy the song Counterstrike by Sabaton, okay? Because, you know, Sabaton has done some phenomenal stuff, all right? So let's get ready to enjoy it as I get ready to pull it up on the video in a 3, a 2, a 1. All right. You know the rules are. I let the song play all the way through. But let's unpack what we learned here. First of all, we know firsthand just how insane just the war would last 6 days. I mean, and there's consequences and repercussions after the 6-day war that still resonate in our modern day and age, and dare I say it, it will resonate and continue to impact that region, the Middle East, long after I am gone and 6 feet under the ground. It just, I just, you know what? To quote my grandfather, who is, may he rest in peace, there will be no peace. And, he passed away at the age of 94. And, I don't see myself witnessing peace anytime in that region either, unfortunately. So, perhaps someday we will, all people will embrace brotherhood and kindness and compassion. I would like to see that kind of world, but unfortunately, as I said before, humans, us as a species, we are professionals at screwing things up, but that doesn't have to be that way for forever. Until then, look, if this is something that interests you, if this is the content that interests you, especially if you like our coverage of Sabaton, because let's face it, folks, a promise is a promise, and I made a promise to watch all of Sabaton history from 1 all the way up to, well, wherever they're at right now. So I got a lot of work. Last I checked, there was like 128 videos, so... Oh, wow, oh boy. Well, looks like yours truly will be watching more Sabaton history. But hey, speaking of Sabaton, support their channel, Sabaton. Support their other channel, Sabaton History, which is an awesome channel that all of you lovely people told us about. And I know all of you will support their original content, so please do that. Click on their content and support them after you watch this video, of course. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Americans Learn, and be sure to hit that ring bell notification. And more importantly, drink water, keep your heads on a swivel, never underestimate your opponent, keep on winning, and maybe someday, and maybe you can help, maybe make the world a little bit of a better place. I'm not asking you to be a saint, but, be kind to each other. Peace. I'm up out of here.